The Karathi research vessel's silent explorer floated dead in space like a broken toy. Captain Nexera stared at the control panels as red warning lights blinked everywhere. His ship's engines had just exploded, leaving them stranded in the middle of nowhere with no way to move. "Sir, all primary systems are down," his engineer reported, trying to keep the panic out of his voice. "We're completely dead in the water." Vexera felt his stomach drop. They were days away from the nearest Karathi outpost, and their backup power wouldn't last long. The ship's hull creaked ominously as life support systems struggled to maintain. "Atmosphere. What about emergency power?" he asked. "Maybe 6 hours, sir. 8, if we shut down everything except basic life support." The captain closed his eyes for a moment. In all his years exploring the galaxy, this was his worst nightmare. But there was only one choice left. "Send out the distress beacon," he ordered. Quietly, his communications officer nodded and activated the emergency transmitter. It was a simple signal that any spacefaring race would understand. 3 short pulses followed by 3 long ones, repeated over and over. The universal cry for help. "Standard distress protocol is active, Captain," the officer confirmed. "Any Karathi vessels within range should pick it up and respond within the next few days." Days. Vexera hoped they had that long. Meanwhile, 3 star systems away, Captain Jack Wilson was having a perfectly normal day aboard his cargo ship, the Iron Will. He sat in his command chair, looking over shipping records and trying to figure out the most efficient route to deliver supplies to the mining colonies on the rim. The Iron Will wasn't much to look at, just a big, sturdy freight hauler designed to carry cargo across long distances. But she was reliable, and Jack's crew knew how to handle anything space could throw at them. "Captain," called out Lieutenant Amy Parker from the communications station. "I'm picking up something weird on the emergency frequencies." Jack looked up from his tablet. "What kind of weird?" "It's a distress signal, but it's not from any human ship. The pattern's all wrong, not our standard SOS format." Jack walked over to her station and listened to the strange beeping pattern coming through the speakers. It was definitely a call for help, even if it sounded different from what they were used to. "How far away?" he asked. "About 4 hours at full speed, sir." Jack didn't even think about it. "Change course. Maximum speed." Amy looked surprised. "Sir, this isn't one of our ships. Could be anyone out there." "Could be pirates setting a trap," added Lieutenant Brian Hayes from the weapons station. Jack shook his head firmly. "Someone's in trouble. That's all I need to know." "But Captain," Amy pressed, "we don't know anything about whoever sent this. Different species, different technology. We might not even be able to help them." "We won't know until we try," Jack replied, settling back into his command chair. "Besides, what if it was us out there? Wouldn't we want someone to come running?" The crew exchanged glances, but didn't argue further. They knew their captain well enough to understand that his mind was made up. When someone needed help, Jack Wilson was going to provide it, no matter who they were. "Estimated arrival time is 3 hours and 47 minutes, reported the navigator. "Good, Amy. Start broadcasting on all emergency channels. Let any other human ships in the area know what's happening." "You want backup, sir?" Jack nodded. "If we're going into a first contact situation, I'd rather have friends nearby. And if someone really is in trouble, they might need more help than we can provide." As the Iron Will changed course and accelerated toward the distress signal, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that this was going to be more complicated than a simple rescue mission. The bridge of the silent explorer fell completely silent when an alien voice crackled through their communications system. Captain Nexera and his crew had never heard anything like it before. The sounds were harsh and choppy, nothing like their own musical language. Their universal translator worked frantically, processing the strange noises and converting them into something they could understand. Finally, words appeared on their screens. "This is Captain Wilson of the Iron Will. We received your distress call and are coming to help you. We'll be there in 4 hours. The Karathi crew looked at each other in shock. First contact with an unknown alien species was supposed to happen under carefully controlled conditions, with diplomats and scientists present, not during a rescue mission when they were helpless and vulnerable. "Sir," whispered his communications officer, "what do we do?" Captain Nexera took a deep breath and activated the transmitter. He spoke slowly and clearly, hoping the alien's translator would work as well as theirs had. "Unknown vessel, we thank you for responding to our signal. However, we must inform you that cross-species rescue operations are strictly forbidden by galactic maritime law. For the safety of both our crews, please maintain your distance." The response came back almost instantly, and the tone was firm but friendly. "Negative on that, Captain. You folks are in trouble, and we're coming to help. That's what good neighbors do." Nexera stared at the message in disbelief. These aliens were willing to ignore interstellar law just to help strangers. It made no sense. Every civilized species in the galaxy followed the same basic rule: you only rescued your own kind. It prevented conflicts, misunderstandings, and potential disasters. "Sir," his science officer said nervously, "should we try to explain the regulations again? Maybe they don't understand how serious this is." Before Nexera could answer, his sensors detected something that made his blood run cold. The alien ship wasn't alone anymore. Meanwhile, aboard the Iron Will, Captain Jack Wilson was busy coordinating what he considered a perfectly normal rescue operation. The moment he'd confirmed they were dealing with aliens in distress, he'd started broadcasting on every human emergency frequency he could reach. "This is Captain Wilson calling all ships in the Outer Rim sectors. We've got a first contact situation here, and somebody needs rescuing. Any vessels in the area, we could use some backup." Lieutenant Amy Parker looked up from her station with concern written all over her face. "Captain, are you absolutely sure about this? We're about to make contact with a completely unknown alien species. We don't know anything about their biology, their technology, or even if they're hostile. What if they breathe something toxic to us?" added Lieutenant Brian Hayes. "What if their ship's radiation levels are deadly? What if this is some kind of trap?" Jack turned to face his crew, and his expression was completely serious. "Look, I understand your concerns. Really, I do. But here's what I know for certain. Somebody out there sent a distress signal. That means they're scared, they're in danger, and they need help. But the regulations..." Amy started to say. "Forget the regulations for a minute," Jack interrupted. "When you see someone drowning, you don't stop to ask what country they're from or what language they speak. You jump in and pull them out of the water." The bridge fell quiet as his words sank in. Finally, Lieutenant Hayes spoke up. "What if we make things worse? What if we accidentally start an interstellar war by interfering?" Jack smiled grimly. "Then, we'll deal with that when it happens. But I'm not going to let people die just because they happen to have different colored skin or breathe different air than we do." His communications officer suddenly looked up with excitement. "Captain, we're getting responses to your broadcast. 3 ships so far, and more coming in." "Good," Jack nodded. "The more help we can bring, the better. These folks might need more assistance than we can provide on our own." As more human ships changed course toward the distress signal, Jack couldn't help but wonder what the aliens were thinking. They probably weren't expecting this kind of response to a simple SOS. Captain Nexera felt his heart racing as he watched his sensor screen light up like a festival display. What had started as one alien ship responding to their distress call was quickly becoming something he'd never seen before in his 30 years of space travel. "Sir," his sensor operator called out, voice shaking slightly. "Another vessel just dropped out of hyperspace. It's huge." The new ship that appeared was nearly twice the size of the Iron Will, painted bright white with red medical symbols covering its hull. The universal translator picked up its identification broadcast. Medical vessel Healing Touch. Captain Rachel Stone commanding. We're here to provide emergency medical assistance. Before Vexara could even process this information, another ship materialized out of nowhere. This one was absolutely massive, an industrial salvage vessel bristling with mechanical arms, towing equipment, and repair drones. Heavy salvage ship, Mountain Mover reporting for duty, came the transmission from Captain Tom Rodriguez. We've got everything needed to fix, move, or rebuild, pretty much anything that flies. Vexara's communications officer looked at him with wide, frightened eyes. Captain, this is highly irregular. Standard rescue protocol calls for one vessel to respond, not ... whatever this is. I know, Vexara muttered, watching as the 3 human ships began forming up around his disabled vessel. This makes no sense at all. He activated his transmitter, trying to keep his voice calm and diplomatic. Human vessels, we appreciate your generous response to our distress call. However, one rescue ship would be more than sufficient for our needs. There's no requirement for multiple vessels to endanger themselves. The response from Captain Wilson came back immediately, and he sounded almost cheerful. Don't worry about it, Captain. Doc Stone's got all the medical equipment, in case any of your crew got injured when your engines blew. Tom's got the heavy machinery if we need to tow you somewhere safe, or fix major damage. We've got all the bases covered. Before Vexara could respond, his sensors detected yet another ship approaching. This one was smaller, but moved with the precise deadly grace of a military vessel. Its hull was dark gray, and weapon ports were clearly visible along its sides. Military patrol vessel Guardian, Captain Alex Turner speaking, came the crisp, professional transmission, establishing security perimeter around the rescue zone. Unknown what caused your breakdown could be pirates, asteroid impacts, or hostile activity. We'll make sure nobody bothers you while repairs are underway. Vexara felt his legs go weak. A military ship. These humans had sent a military vessel to protect them during rescue operations. In his entire career, he'd never heard of such a thing. Sir, his science officer whispered urgently, should we request that they reduce their response? This is getting out of hand. I don't think we have much choice in the matter anymore, Vexara replied quietly, watching as the 4 human ships began coordinating their approach with the kind of precision that spoke of years of working together. The humans were talking to each other on open channels, and the Karathi universal translator was picking up their conversations. What Vexara heard made him even more confused. Guardian, this is Iron Will. Suggest you sweep the area for debris or hostiles while we assess the situation. Copy that, Iron Will. Already launching reconnaissance drones. Healing Touch, what's your status on alien-compatible medical supplies? We've got basic universal life support and emergency medical gear. Mountain Mover, do you have environmental suits that might fit non-human physiology? Affirmative. Healing Touch. We carry adaptive gear for exactly these situations. Vexara listened to this exchange with growing amazement. These humans were treating his rescue like a major military operation, with backup plans and specialized equipment for situations they'd apparently never encountered before. His communications officer looked up nervously. Captain, they're coordinating like they've done this 100 times before. But this is supposed to be first contact. How can they be so prepared? I have no idea, Vexara admitted. But I'm starting to think we've stumbled across something very unusual. Most species would send one ship, verify we're not a threat, and provide minimal assistance. These humans seem to think that helping strangers requires bringing enough firepower and equipment to rebuild our entire vessel. As he watched the human ships take up positions around his disabled vessel, like protective guardians, Vexara couldn't shake the feeling that his people's understanding of galactic civilization was about to change dramatically. What happened next was unlike anything Captain Nexera had ever witnessed in his decades of space travel. The human rescue operation began with military precision that would have impressed even the most elite Karathi fleet commanders. Captain Turner's patrol ship Guardian immediately launched a swarm of small reconnaissance drones that spread out in all directions, scanning for threats. At the same time, the ship's main sensors swept the surrounding space, looking for anything that might have caused the silent explorer's breakdown. All clear in sectors 1 through 6, Turner reported crisply. No hostile vessels, no debris, fields, no gravitational anomalies. Whatever hit you came from inside your own ship. Meanwhile, Captain Rodriguez's massive salvage vessel Mountain Mover was deploying equipment that Dexara didn't even know existed. Mechanical arms unfolded from the ship's hull like giant metallic flowers, each one carrying different tools and repair devices. Okay, let's see what we're working with here. Rodriguez's voice came through the comm, sounding almost excited. Running full diagnostics on your propulsion system now. Oh wow, you guys really did a number on these engines, didn't you? Dexara watched in amazement as 6 different types of repair drones flew out from the human salvage ship and began attaching themselves to his vessel's hull. Each drone was specialized for different kinds of repairs. Some carried welding equipment, others had parts, fabricators, and still others seemed designed to completely replace damaged components. Your main engine core is completely fried, Rodriguez continued. But don't worry, we'll have you running better than new in just a few hours. Before Dexara could ask what he meant by better than new, another voice came through the communication system. Silent Explorer, this is Dr. Jennifer Hayes from the medical ship Healing Touch. We'd like permission to come aboard and check on your crew's health. Just want to make sure nobody got hurt when your engines exploded. That's not necessary, Dexara replied hesitantly. We have our own medical facilities. I'm sure you do, Dr. Hayes responded cheerfully, but engine explosions can cause all kinds of hidden injuries. Radiation exposure, pressure changes, toxic fumes. We've got equipment specifically designed for post-accident medical screening. While this conversation was happening, Captain Wilson's crew aboard the Iron Will had been busy preparing what they called standard rescue provisions. When they transmitted the list to the Karathi ship, Vexora-est supply officer nearly fainted. Captain, the supply officer whispered, they're offering us enough food, water, and emergency supplies to last our entire crew for 6 months. This isn't rescue provisions. This is enough to stock a space station. Why would they bring so much? Dexara wondered aloud. The answer came from Captain Wilson himself. Never know how long you folks might be stranded out here if something goes wrong with the repairs. Better to have too much than too little. But the real shock came when Nexara watched the human engineers begin working on his ship's propulsion system. Instead of simply fixing the damaged parts, they were completely rebuilding everything from scratch. Chief Engineer Kelly Murphy, from the Mountain Mover, had somehow gotten inside the Silent Explorer's engine room and was directing a team of mechanical drones with the skill of someone who'd been working on Karathi technology her entire life. Your original design was pretty good, Murphy explained as she worked, but we're adding some improvements. Triple redundancy on all critical systems, upgraded power couplings, and a backup fusion reactor in case your main one ever fails again. But that's not necessary, Dexara protested. We only need basic repairs to get home. Murphy looked up from her work and grinned. Captain, when we fix something, we fix it right. Nobody should have to worry about their engines failing twice in the same lifetime. As the hours passed, Dexara watched in stunned silence as the humans transformed his research vessel into something that belonged in a military fleet. They didn't just repair the damage, they improved every system they touched. This is completely unprecedented, he admitted to his science officer. I've never heard of any species putting this much effort into helping strangers. his communications officer looked equally bewildered. Sir, they're treating our rescue like the most important mission they've ever undertaken. Why would aliens care so much about people they've never met? Before Vexara could answer, Chief Engineer Murphy's voice came through the comm system, sounding proud and satisfied. There you go, Captain. Your ship will run smoother and faster than the day it left the shipyard. Probably handle twice the stress load of your original design too. Vexara realized that his understanding of the universe had just changed forever. 8 hours after the rescue operation began, the Silent Explorer was ready to depart. But it wasn't the same ship that had sent out that desperate distress call. The vessel now hummed with power from upgraded engines that were twice as efficient as the originals. Its hull had been reinforced, its life support systems completely overhauled, and its medical bay stocked with enough supplies to run a small hospital. Captain Nexera stood on his bridge, looking at diagnostic readings that were better than anything he'd seen in his 30-year career. Every system was running at peak efficiency. His ship was now more advanced than most military vessels in the Karathi fleet. Sir, his engineer reported, with wonder in his voice, our power output has increased by 200%. These humans didn't just fix our engines, they made them better than new. The cargo holds were packed with emergency supplies, food that would last his crew for months, and medical equipment that was decades ahead of anything the Karathi had ever developed. The humans had even included detailed instruction manuals, all translated into perfect Karathi. But what puzzled Vexara more than anything was the casual way the humans had done all of this. They acted like completely rebuilding an alien starship, and providing enough supplies for a small colony was just normal behavior. Captain Wilson Nexera said over a private communication channel, "Before we depart, I must ask you something. Why did your people respond with such overwhelming force to our simple distress call?" Captain Jack Wilson's face appeared on the screen, and he looked genuinely confused by the question. "You were in trouble. We helped. That's what people do when neighbors need assistance. But the resources you've expended," Vexara pressed, "the 4 ships you've diverted from their missions, the equipment you've given us, the time and effort your crews have invested, this response far exceeds any reasonable rescue protocol. Most species would send 1 ship, provide basic repairs, and leave." Jack scratched his head and smiled slightly. "Captain, where I come from, when you see someone's car broken down on the side of the road, you don't just drive past them, you stop. You help fix their car, maybe give them some food and water, and you make sure they're going to be okay before you go on your way. Doesn't matter if you've never met them before, or if they're from a different town. But this goes far beyond that," Vexara insisted. "You've essentially given us a new ship." "Well," Jack shrugged, "your old ship was pretty beat up. Figured, while we were fixing it, we might as well do the job right. No point in patching something up if it's just going to break down again next week." Dr. Hayes from the medical ship chimed in on the communication. "Captain Nexara, we noticed your crew looked pretty stressed from the whole experience. That's why we left you those relaxation supplies and stress relief medications. Nobody should have to suffer through that kind of trauma without proper care." Captain Rodriguez added his own thoughts. "Besides, you folks seem like decent people. If we ever break down in your part of the galaxy, maybe you'll return the favor someday." Captain Turner from the military vessel concluded, "It's simple strategic thinking, really. Help your neighbors when they're in trouble, and they'll help you when you need it. Makes the whole galaxy a safer, more friendly place." As the human ships prepared to go their separate ways, each captain wished the Karathi crew well and told them to call if you need anything else. They spoke like they expected to be friends for life, even though they'd only known each other for a few hours. Later that day, as Vexara sat in his quarters writing his official report to Karathi Command, he struggled to find words to describe what had happened. How could he explain that an entire alien species seemed to consider massive rescue operations complete ship overhauls, and overwhelming hospitality to be completely normal behavior. His final report entry read, "Urgent recommendation for all future deep space missions. Any distress signals sent in human-occupied space should include a warning that humans consider overwhelming rescue responses, complete system rebuilds, and extensive generosity to be standard neighborly behavior. Suggest immediate establishment of formal protocols for managing human enthusiasm in emergency situations. Also recommend cultural exchange programs to better understand this remarkable species." As his newly enhanced ship jumped to hyperspace, with engines that purred like a contented cat, Vexora couldn't help but smile. The galaxy had just become a much more interesting place.